Welcome back to another video from Only Copilot Fans. I'm your host, AJ Ansari. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can use the Update Record v3 tool from the Dynamics 365 Business Central connector in Copilot Studio to modify records right from your agent. Let's go. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's video is made upon special request for an Only Copilot Fans follower, Jaisri Aishwarya. Jaisri, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it answers the questions that you have. For everybody watching, if you have something that you would like to see me cover in one of our upcoming how-to tutorials or do a deep dive, all you've got to do is reach out to me on LinkedIn or hit me up with a comment below and we'll work it into our schedule. All right, with that, let's continue with our session here. First and foremost, let's get a better understanding of the Update Record v3 tool for Business Central in Copilot Studio, and this would also apply at large to all of the Power Platform. So the most important thing that you need to know is that you have to identify the record you're trying to update using the System ID field. The System ID field uniquely identifies each record in a table, and this contains an alphanumeric GUID. It's not something that's shown in the UI of Business Central to users, but if you use the Page Inspect tool, you can always see that in the background. So how do we get that value? Well, there are two different tools that are part of the Business Central connector family that you can choose from. One of them is called Find One Record, and the other is called Find Records. I've done an in-depth video on the Find One Record. If you haven't seen that step-by-step walkthrough, check out the link that's going to appear on the top right corner of your screen. You can click that and you can watch that entire tutorial. Find Records, on the other hand, is going to show you all the records from a table, or you use some OData filters and find one result or multiple results, and then you can choose from those results which record you want to work with. For instance, if you wanted to update a customer, you may not know exactly how the customer's name is spelled, and you may not know the customer number off the top of your head. So you could search for it by some portion of its name, and it would give you a short list of all the customers that match the criteria, and then you could say, I want to update customer number 2, or whichever one it is that you'd like to update. And then you will have the System ID for the record that you've retrieved, and that is going to be used in the following step with the Update Record tool. That's how simple it is. I also want to give you a quick aside that if you haven't tried using the Business Central MCP tool, you should absolutely take a look at that, because that would save you the trouble of using Find Records and then Update Record. The tools built into the Business Central MCP server are going to allow you to do all of those using one single connection as opposed to multiple connections. I have done a deep dive, and you can take a look at the link on the top right of your screen right now. Click that and check out that full expose on how the connector works, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's continue with an example of how we're going to update a record of the customer table. Here I am in Copilot Studio in my training environment, and I'm going to click on Create an Agent to get started. The agent is ready, so let's make a couple of quick changes, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so now I've got a name, a description, and some basic instructions for my agent. Let's go to Tools and let's add our first tool. First, I'm going to look for the Find Records in Business Central. So Find Records, let's click on it, and let's configure this tool. So I've renamed it to Find Customers, and my description is simply retrieves customer records from Dynamics 365 Business Central. So I'm going to come down here and choose my inputs. So pick my environment, my company, and for APIs, instead of one of my Only Copilot Fans mini library of APIs, I've gone with Microsoft's v2.0 APIs for Business Central, and I've picked the customer table. Now, this is something I didn't know about until I was at Convergence last week. Fellow Microsoft MVP Mary Myers showed me that Microsoft has actually documented all of the fields on all of the API pages that they have out of the box. So if you go to Microsoft Learn and do a quick search for API v2.0 Business Central, you can see this documentation. And as I scroll down, I can look on customer, and this would show me all of the fields that are part of the customer table. So here I know the name field is called display name, or the System ID value that we're looking for is called the ID. So that is very helpful as I start to work with filters. Let's go back into Copilot Studio and have the ability to do a filter. So we want to filter these records by part of the customer name. We'll leave this input set to dynamically fill with AI, and let's save it. Next, I'm going to add another tool, and that's going to be our Update Record V3 tool. I'm back on my Tools page, add a tool, and I'm going to look for Update Record V3. Actually, it showed up right over here, so I don't have to search for it at all. And we'll hit Add and Configure, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so here I've updated the name, update customer record, added a description, updates an existing customer record in Business Central, and scroll down a little bit and you'll see I've populated the environment, company, API category, and the table name the same way I populated on the previous tool. However, there is another field here called row ID, and that is where we're going to populate the system ID value. So this I'm going to leave as dynamically fill with AI. By the way, when you're first setting this connector up, you might actually see another item right below here called row. It will eventually go away by the time you've populated the table name. So let's go ahead and save this as well. Back in here, let's now refresh this test your agent area and give it a whirl. So the first thing I'd want to do is to find a customer to update. Let's go to our list of customers in Business Central and let's look at Alpine Ski House. You see the credit limit over here is $0, and I want to assign a credit limit of $50,000 to this customer. Let's go back to our agent and test the scenario out. Let's see what happens if I tell it to update the credit limit for this particular customer. And let's hit enter. All right, take a look at that. Without any specific guidance, it looked at the descriptions of the different tools that I have in place, and it decided it should first find the record, Alpine Ski House, and then it should update the credit limit for that customer. And if you look at the Find Customers, you can see it looked for display name equals Alpine Ski House, retrieved the record, and then in the Update Customer Record tool, it updated the credit limit using the row ID that we found, or the system ID that we found. Now, I want to try what happens if I didn't know Alpine Ski House's full customer name, and let's see how that behaves. Here's my new and updated prompt. Update the credit limit for customer Alpine to $60,000. This is a partial customer name. Now it did not find the customer. So we need to give it a little bit more guidance this time around. Now my updated prompt is update the credit limit for customer named Alpine to $60,000. Use a contains OData filter. All right, so our updated prompt worked perfectly. So let's take a look at what happened here. When I click on the connector action for Find Customers, I can see that just as I asked it to, it used a contains filter. And if I just typed in Alpine, Alpine Ski, or Ski House, it would have found that particular record. And if it had found more than one record matching it, it would ask me which customer do I want to work with. And then in the next step, it applied the system ID into the credit limit update request. So here's where this gets interesting. Not every user would know to prompt it this way. So what we would want to do is to create a process in our instructions. I also want you to keep in mind that depending on the model that you're using, your model may not be able to accurately plan to use the Find Connector tool first and then the update record. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure with some of the older models like GPT-4o, you would have to give explicit instructions. So while I'm happy that it's able to do all of this, I worry that it's not going to do this correctly all of the time. To overcome that possibility, we're going to create our process. So let's take a look at what this process instruction is going to look like. Go to the overview page and edit my instructions. And let's add a section in here called Process Update Customer Record. All right, let's save this and see what happens. Update customer Ski House's credit limit to $15,000. And now it has run the process. The credit limit for the customer has been updated. Previous limit, new credit limit. And we can see once again, it has done exactly as we've asked it to. So using process instruction set ensures that we're going to get consistently correct answers or guaranteed outcomes. Now, Jayshree also asked if I could do something with the use of topics and the update record tool, and I'll do that in a separate video in the near future. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe to our Only Copilot Fans YouTube channel. It really helps us out, and tell your friends about Only Copilot Fans. Once again, this is AJ Ansari, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Take care and have a great day.